recording has started.
Hello.
Hey, Marty.
Yes.
Happy birthday.
Oh, thank you. News travels, huh?
I did want to apologize. I will have to step off a little bit early. I have to help picking up the girls, so I have to leave around 4:30, unfortunately. So I apologize.
Oh, Kelly.
Hi, Marty.
Hello.
How are ya?
I'm alive.
It's great to see your face.
I have COVID, but I'm alive.
Oh, gosh, I'm so sorry to hear that, but I'm
I-
so glad you are alive.
I don't know if it's any more sorry than if I have a cold. I mean, it's a heavy cold.
Was that your first exposure?
Yeah.
Okay. Now we know. Because you know that anxiety of not knowing how you're going to take it if you ever get it? I had it in January, but I'm happy that you cruised right through your cold
Yeah.
style COVID.
Yeah. It has its irritating aspects,
Mhm.
but
Completely
it's
get
you know,
that.
it's doable, at least now, and I've had all the shots that are fit to have, I guess. So whatever it is what it is.
Yes. Yes, I do.
I don't know. I don't know what it's about. It's just
Hi, Carol.
Hi.
We can hear you. Yay. I didn't know if you were having trouble with mics again.
Nope. I just have an old computer and I don't want to get a new computer because then I have to learn everything all over again.
You got my mom a new computer because hers was to the point where it wouldn't connect to anything anymore. And now she hasn't opened it since. Doesn't want to deal with it.
Well, I'm sympathetic. One thing that has happened to me is I've waited long enough that now things I used to like to use, are all subscription. So I have to pay every month to use any of the programs I'm used to. And that sort of irritates me.
yeah, I guess it
Would
would.
irritate me too.
Irritates me. It's just another way of making money.
I know what you mean. Way back when I was in school, I was able to purchase things at a student rate, like Word and Excel. And then when they went through those changes, I lost my student rate, and then they changed it to the whole pay monthly thing and all that stuff. So I totally get you.
Yeah, technology has left me in the dust. Now it looks like we don't have very many people. Is it just my view?
Well, let's see.
Nope, it's slim pickings for today.
I think OEQ staff is outweighing you guys right now.
Got you outnumbered. Yeah, you have eight total in the meeting here. So I think
I think most people probably still sleeping off the election results and everything, probably. So
I did hear from Carol, the other Carol, that she was not going to be able to attend.
Was she in that other meeting, Andy?
no, I didn't see her.
Well, I don't know how long we need to wait.
Oh, there's Scott.
Oh, good. Well, there's so few of us, we don't need a lot for a quorum.
We're just missing one more. We got 4 and we need 5.
Doing a little quorum dance.
Yeah.
Right.
Scott was going to be on camera with us, and then he said no. He changed his mind.
Well,
I'm having a technical klutz here for a minute.
I think learning curves get steeper when you get older.
Just what I wanted to hear, Marty.
Sorry. I feel like an imbecile most of the time. And I realize, probably not.
Who is going to be joining us from the health department? Is that,
So we do not have a representative from the health department, but Laura will be leading that conversation, just to kind of give you some of what we know about that.
well, good. I see we just reached a quorum.
Correct.
So let's call the meeting to order. And are there any additions or corrections to the October minutes?
Well, that seems to work. Oh, he's gone. You're getting gone.
Any additions or corrections to the October minutes?
Nope.
Can I have a motion to approve as drafted?
This is Michael
Motion to
King,
approve.
motion.
A second?
Second.
Okay. All in favor? I'll tell you what, any opposed? Any opposed? Okay, we'll count them as approved as drafted, and I think, Andy, we'll kind of just turn it over to you and Laura
Okay.
to go through the other things on the agenda.
Sure.
So that was our only action item.
Okay. Yeah, so we're going to get started, I think, with Laura. One of the things is we've been having some conversations with the health department, and I know there was some interest on part of the commission about some of the work that's being done, whether it was the health department or OEQ or in collaboration regarding the plan. So I thought we would just have Laura kind of give us a brief overview of what that might look like or what's going on in that area, and then we'll go from there. So Laura, go ahead.
Sure. And Dr. Francisco, who was the one that was going to be here, does apologize. He is at a conference that this week, so he could not make this meeting. But just kind of where we're sitting with the health department right now, it's one, they have hired a sustainability manager person. Her name is Dana Stone. She's pretty fantastic, and she's sort of been tasked with looking at the areas of the climate plan that the health department has a piece in, and just sort of figuring out how to navigate that. They do have their mission, which is completely related to health outcomes and health equity and health in general. So, you know, there's some things that policy perspective and things like that technically just doesn't fall in their wheelhouse. But what Dana and I have been doing with Dr. Francisco, who is their big data guru and really into putting things, you know, mapping things and making sure that we have good data to support the work we're doing, is kind of figuring out how we can measure health equity in our climate action from a KPI perspective, and also to figure out where we really need to target our work. We know, I mean, we all kind of know from the perspective of heat island and socioeconomic stress and those kind of things where we should target efforts. But when it comes to from a health perspective, there are a lot of other issues that come into that, such as there may be a food desert in this particular area, but how is that going to be exacerbated by a long-term drought? And how is that exacerbated by heat island? And then how is that exacerbated by asthma rates, or how much sleep people actually get because working 2 jobs, those kind of things. So there's a whole lot of data that we are trying to figure out how we can utilize that the health department already collects. And then we're trying to figure out data that they're not yet collecting that could yield both results, like a double bang for your buck. They get their health information out of it, and we get information to help drive the climate plan forward equitably out of it as well. So it's very nebulous right now. We've just kind of been sitting in conversations trying to figure out what we already have, what we know we need, and what we don't know we need. And that's the fun one. That's the one where we're, kind of how do these things interrelate and how do we figure out what data we need. And I think a lot of what they're doing is looking what other cities are gathering from a health perspective. So they're helping us on that front, especially in the areas of heat island and in the areas of food policy and food insecurity from a health standpoint. So that's kind of where we are with the health department. Wish I had like some really cool, fun, solid programs to give you, but it's not there yet. So.
Yeah, and I would just add to that as a follow-up is that I did have the opportunity to meet with Dr. Jones. That's the director of the health department this morning to kind of talk through, generally where we feel that we have the opportunity to collaborate, what our working relationship might be going into the future. They have some priorities that they're looking to address internally that I think COVID kind of opened up some vulnerabilities that they see for themselves as well as for the community. So that's what they're sort of focusing on right now, but they are more than willing to help in working through those actions, initiatives that are in the climate plan that, like Laura said, kind of are in line with their mission a bit as well. So good to, to kind of get that relationship going, and it sounds like that we'll be supportive of each other and each other's missions. So I don't know if you have any questions. I know it's not a lot of details there, but like Laura was saying, we're still kind of working through some of those conversations. And to be honest with you, this is sort of going on not just in the health department, but we're having these conversations in other departments as well. Whether it's the Parks Department trying to figure out the tree planting initiatives or policies, et cetera, et cetera. So it's there's a lot of things that just aren't quite worthy to share in any details because there's still open conversations and discussions going on. So
the stuff that you said about the health department, the health aspects of climate change, that could be profound understanding for a lot of people who don't make connections. So making that public would be really good.
And I think they totally agree with that. And they also totally agree with you don't manage what you don't measure. And so for some of our more nebulous climate action pieces, from a perspective of this particular thing isn't necessarily going to give us carbon reduction. They're thinking that they can really help us there, and it's going to, with those co-benefits from a health outcomes perspective, and moving those things that aren't necessarily, that are more co-benefit related than direct carbon mitigation.
Mm-hmm.
Scott had his hand up.
Yeah, wow, I just think that's awesome that you're starting to make those connections, because I've thought about some of those things in kind of a high level nebulous way, as you said, for a while. And as MRI's business has moved more heavily into the health related areas over the last 5 years, let's say, I see more of that kind of thing. And some of the things that just passing thoughts that I've had, air quality areas tie into that. The COVID, I think, is one of those things that I think as climate change happens, you're going to see more disease related things like that. Maybe not on that scale, but and I like the idea of tying all that into the resilience things. The resilience part of the plan, yeah, it's not a carbon mitigation, but it's cities are going to have to be wrestling with some of these issues. So that's great. More power to you. I know wastewater monitoring too is also something that's occasionally on my radar, for monitoring viral loads and things like that, that I know you guys are already involved in some ways, or maybe not you directly, maybe that's more in the health rather than in the environmental side. I don't know, but there's some crossover there. And I do have some colleagues that are more heavily involved in the wastewater monitoring, looking at sampling analysis techniques and improving those methods, and how that might fit in with, you know, I don't know. I'll throw the keywords that I don't really understand what they mean, like bioinformatics. And,
Did you say you don't really understand what they mean? Because you do.
No.
You know you do.
but you know, but some of the folks that are further in than me can speak that language and know what they're kinds of things that they look for and do, and monitoring techniques and methods.
Yeah, and I know the other really big thing we're doing, this is kind of cross-departmental as well, is just really kind of figuring out how we can work together to partner to apply for various grant funding opportunities and things like that. Like how can we kill two birds with one stone, and asking for federal dollars, and that's it's a really big part of where we are right now, and staffing up, of course. All the departments are really working hard to staff up right now. So it's a good time. Things are moving forward. We're going this way finally, it seems like, which is positive. So excited for that. Molly, you are on mute.
Having a challenging
There you are.
Sorry. You sent that grants note the other day, and both Jake and I have responded, yeah, we'd be very interested.
Was that me or was that health? Did I send
that? Was you.
Which one did I send?
Oh, well, I'd have to go and look.
I've got to go look now. I've sent so many grant notes. That's why I'm like,
yeah.
I thought that, I know we sent a letter of support for you guys. I was just trying to figure out what other grant note I sent.
Well, we have a couple out there. Let's keep fingers crossed, because you guys are partners on several of them. Oh, wow. Just
yeah, this was the one about this was the health department one, looking for the Baltimore's plan to study climate change.
Right.
Yeah, that did come from health. I know the health department was kind of interested in how they're doing. I mean, they're getting a lot of money to do this, and it's for those of you that aren't up on it, I will put it in chat, but it's for a 5-year period. Scientists are going to really study how atmospheric, climatic, and environmental factors interact across Baltimore to help with climate resiliency. It's really kind of a cool looking thing, and our health department kind of jumped on that as far as, hey, we need to get a university partner to help with this, because it's we don't have the staff.
Dr. Sun is already doing heat island work, but also Baltimore is an LTER. That's a long-term ecological research location for NSF. That's 10 years or longer. And mostly they funded these stations for long-term research in pristine locations. And finally they went, we need to put them in cities. So Baltimore is one, and Phoenix, Arizona is another, because it's in an extreme environment. So I don't know if that climate work is associated with their LTER status, but they are a designated NSF center. But we should be one, because we're in the middle.
Well, we are definitely interested in something like it. And since you guys, Molly, since you all see more of the science-based, research-based grants come through, if you see one that you think could be used for that, you've got a couple of city departments really interested in partnering.
All right.
In our free time.
Right. In our free time when we write these things.
Right.
Okay, Carol, I think that's all we've got on the first agenda item. Be okay to move on?
Yes, I think it'll be fine. We're looking forward to it.
Okay, great. So next on the agenda is introduction of new staff. So many of you have known that we've been short-staffed for a while. We had a position that was vacated by Jerry Schechter, And unfortunately, more recently, our sustainability analyst position also became vacant. So at this time, I'm happy to introduce Kelly Herman. She is our new sustainability community outreach coordinator. I don't know, something like that. But yeah, so Kelly Herman, I'll turn it over to you in
I'm
just a
laughing.
second. The other position, our sustainability analyst, we did make an offer. We do have somebody that will be taking that position for us, but they'll be joining us next month. So we're going to keep that to ourselves for now, but we'll introduce that person next month. So Kelly, why don't you take it away and introduce yourself?
Yeah, Andy, I'm so glad you had trouble saying that because it's a, you know, it takes a little exercise to keep, saying these new position titles. So I've been saying, let me know if you want me to change this, but Sustainable Communities Coordinator. Hello, I'm Kelly Herman. That's spelled with a IE if you want to email me or get a hold of me. Um, I'd like to take this little bit of time to tell you about myself, maybe tell you a little bit about my story, how I got here, and a little bit about what I'm currently doing on week 2, and how really how I kind of see this position and how it's going to evolve as I meet with people in the community and talk with all of you. I could see it really evolving over time anyway. So, also, I feel like I'm gonna go into maybe some great detail in my story in my past, and it's really because I hope that you hear something that connects with something that you know about or you're interested in, and it gives us something to kind of talk about when we meet or as we move forward in the future working together. So that's why I'm going into a little bit of a long story here, a little detail, a little deep dive. But so I like to start my story by saying that it kind of started with a hot dog. And it's a rare thing to hear someone say that, but at the time my career kind of started, I was actually a massage therapist, and I had been a massage therapist for around 9 to 12 years. And I was invited to go on a river rescue cleanup for James River Basin Partnership. And as you all know, at the end of doing volunteer work, you're very hungry. And whether you like a hot dog or not, you'll end up eating one if that's all they got. So I went to that booth where they were offering volunteers hot dogs, and I just felt so alive with what we just did together. I felt like I had met people that were like me. I felt like a real spark was lit inside me, and I felt really ignited to take action. And I talked with staff there. And after that river rescue cleanup for James River Basin Partnership, I forgot to mention this is Springfield, Missouri. I lived there at this time when I was a massage therapist. And in Springfield, I started really dipping into a lot of volunteership with Watershed Committee, the Ozarks, James River Basin Partnership, Water Education for Teachers, stream teams, Master Naturalist. And I was just so lucky to be kind of a massage therapist at the time because I had all this extra, I kind of had a lot of flexibility to start volunteering. Well, I soon became a full-time AmeriCorps and full-time employee at James River Basin Partnership, doing pretty much membership and education outreach. And while I worked there, it was about 4 to 5 years. I did all their watershed festival outreach and tree planting, rainscapes, native plant education, stream restoration, stream bank restoration, and things like that. And I actually went back to school to get my biology degree at Drury University while I was there. Um, so around 5 to 6 years, I kind of wanted to experience something new. And for a little bit of time, I dipped into working at Renew, Missouri in Columbia. And for PJ Wilson, I don't know if anyone's familiar with Renew Missouri, but I was also doing their membership and education outreach. But to be honest, at that time, it was a huge learning curve to learn about energy, coming from stormwater, like environmental education with children and things like that. So I decided that wasn't the place for me. I always joked that I traded my boots for suits, and I wanted to get back in the boots. So I came back to Springfield, and I actually took my wastewater level D certification because I was trying to figure out where I wanted to go and what I wanted to do. And simultaneously, I went ahead and started completing my master's program at MSU. It's a professional science master's program, and that's a blend between MBA classes and environmental sciences classes. And while I was in that program, we had a choice to write a thesis or take an internship. So I opted for the internship and I wanted to avoid that thesis part. And, but more importantly, it's because of the past work at James River Basin Partnership, working on grants with the city, that I already knew the city staff in stormwater there. And I already knew the coordinator, Carrie Lamb, working in stormwater quality. And I really wanted to jump at that opportunity because in Springfield, it's honestly really hard to find environmental professional work. So I jumped at that opportunity to have an internship with the city of Springfield in their infiltration and inflow program mixed with their stormwater quality program. And in that position, I went and did a lot of door knocking. And I even designed some rainscapes for people participating in the I&I program to install instead of their basement sump pumps and that kind of work. And it was a shared internship with stormwater quality. And so at that time, I was also learning to do construction inspection for SWIP compliance, Stormwater Pollution Prevention Plan compliance. And a position came open for a stormwater tech, and I applied and I got the job. And at that time, working in the city of Springfield stormwater quality as a tech, I was involved in, I just say, all things MS4 related. And that has to do a lot with, I would say, pollution prevention, inspecting construction sites, reviewing plans, being present for pre-design, and I already said inspection, but really being at the table to really do a lot of erosion and sediment control education and best management practice training. I did a lot of education and outreach to contractors and designers for learning how to install and maintain best management practices for erosion sediment control. In that time period too, I switched more to an education role for them in stormwater, and I started doing more adopt a stream for them, as well as something I'm kind of proud of is our pollution campaign. That's a pet waste campaign where city staff stopped removing pet waste from our downtown square, and we put little flags in the pet waste so that people could really experience the accumulation of the pet waste and see that it didn't compost and it didn't go away, and that we really needed people to pick up their pet waste. And that was really fun. That became like a national campaign that was nationally recognized. And the other thing that I'm really proud of in that position as an educator was designing design standards for engineers to put on their plans to control sediment and erosion. So while I was in Springfield, we all went through this COVID lockdown period where we were working from home. While I was working from home, I started to do a deep dive into empathic communication and nonviolent communication, just personally, because I wanted to just learn how to listen better and how to really see that people are motivated by feelings and they're looking to meet their needs. And I also did a little dipping in Ozark and Ozark swimming holes during that time too. But during that time, I looked for jobs, and I looked for, and I found a job at Casey Water. And so just about this time, about a year and a half ago, I applied and got a job at Casey Water in their regulatory compliance division. And that sometimes is called industrial waste or pre-treatment. And I was managing an inspection team there. And the FOG or fat, oil and grease, the fat, oil and grease program. And so I had been doing that for this past year, and I saw this position posted, and it warmed my heart to think that I could kind of go back to some of more grassroots, working with the community, really sharing my passion and excitement for really taking action for the environment and for climate. So I applied for this position, and I'm really happy and really feel grateful to have this opportunity. And I think when I really marinate in what I'd like to do in this position, I think a lot about really taking that spark and igniting people to act, just like I did at that river rescue that day. And that's kind of a segue into what I really see this position doing is I feel like I'm going to take that climate protection and resiliency plan to community, to individuals, and really play like this matchmaker position where I'm going to listen to what they're ignited about, what, they're excited about, and use that plan to match with, what they're already passionate about, and really link it with, the resources that the city has, and just really be that matchmaker to really get momentum going or sustain momentum. That's kind of how I see this current role that I'm in right now. Some of the actions that I'm taking currently on week 2, and I've talked with Laura a lot about this, as we're in the middle of, I've got to get a pulse on this thing. And one of the ways we're doing that is to develop a dashboard internally and externally so that I can figure out these actions and strategies, how they connect with certain partnerships and our partners, who the contacts are that I'll be connecting with and talking with, and who is doing what and what programs are already in existence to help move us towards our targets, and really making all these connections. And I know Laura mentioned that we're going to have another new employee come in that is more data driven, and we're going to work together to create dashboards where internally we're going to know who to contact, who's responsible, or who's taking ownership for what, and really determine how close we are to our goals, and if what progress is being made. And then I know that externally, we want a dashboard that people can kind of see our progress and answer questions too. The other thing that I'm going to be doing is developing a roadshow to take to the public and community to introduce the plan, introduce myself, and hopefully create possible actions where people can get involved and light that spark and feel that passion ignite. And lastly, in here at City Hall, I've been given a project to work with Casey Can Compost to restart our composting efforts here at City Hall. So there it is.
All right.
Oh, I wanted to say that I'm open to meeting you all, and I want to ask you to, if you feel like calling me and visiting with me. I'd love to visit with you and talk to you too. And I want to give you my phone number if you'd like to call me sometime. It's 816-513-3401.
Kelly, if you could drop that in the chat too before we're done
Okay,
today,
yeah.
that'd be
Thank
great.
you.
So thank you, Kelly. And we're pretty excited to have her. It's long time overdue. We had to navigate through our hiring process, and because Jerry was a retirement, we had to wait at least 6 months before we could even fill the position. And then going through the actual hiring processes, we're dealing with some of the challenges that the private sector is dealing with as well. But we were more than happy with Kelly. She seems like she can be a great candidate and great employee, and it's been fun having her on board so far. So yeah, Laura's been trying to bring her up to speed, and I think there's a lot there, so be patient with her. Yeah, she'll be your liaison or the community's liaison to our office as well. So feel free to reach out to Kelly anytime. Molly, get your hand up. You're muted, Molly.
Just quit this tech day. I'm participating in a Department of Justice task force on environmental justice. We have 160 federal agencies in Kansas City that make Kansas City their Midwest sort of home headquarters. And one of the things that we're doing as part of this is developing contact list. So as soon as it's available, I can share that with you, Kelly. Who the people are who are doing environmental or EJ work at whatever federal agency in town.
That is awesome. Thanks so much, Molly.
I want to say welcome too. I think that you're going to be a great fit here. This is exciting. And I hope that you're going to be encouraged by how many different community partners you will find in Kansas City. There are so many good people in Kansas City working hard.
Thanks, Carol. Thanks. That's one of the things that really excited me about coming to Kansas City, and just really being aware that I feel like there are so many caring groups and so many groups that are ignited and have a real passion. Coming from Springfield, you can just imagine just all the things that are already in place that are happening is really exciting. Thanks, Carol.
Okay, Andy, you're it again.
All right, great. Well, and this will be relatively brief. I don't have a huge list of things to go through today, but first off, I'd like to kind of come back to the conversation the commission had at our last meeting about appointments. Members of the commission did have a conversation with the mayor's office finally about this, and unfortunately, it was kind of disheartening to find out that our list and their lists were not the same. So they were under the impression that there were 13 members of the commission as opposed to 9. So we're providing them an updated list of the current commissioners. But to that end, just to let you know, in terms of applicants for the remaining vacant positions, according to the mayor's office, there are only 2 applicants. So I'm not sure. I know there have been some efforts by the various commissioners to find folks to send in their applications, but I had them go through and check, and this only goes back 1 year. They're not looking at applications that are older than a year ago. So in the past year, there were just 2. So clearly we need more applicants, and they're willing to take our office's suggestion, which I thought was good. So I would say that we probably need to strategize on how to get more applicants, but they seem willing to, I think I impressed upon them the need to fill those positions because it's a little light. And this was prior to me knowing that there were only 2 applicants. I mean, I was under the impression they'd have more, but they went through and checked and there were 2. And I don't want to mention who they are, but I think they'd be good candidates, and I did suggest to go ahead and appoint them if possible. So the sooner the better. But other than that, that's just two. So I would just suggest if there are other folks that may be interested, to certainly encourage them to apply.
Andy, we've had people express difficulty applying, that it
Okay.
doesn't work, that you get onto the website and you go to the mayor's web page and you have the place where you apply for commissions, and it does not let you do it.
Okay.
And so maybe what we need to do is I'll get some sort of alternate route, whether we have to send a written application of some kind to people, or whether they can contact the mayor's office in a different way. I just don't know what to say. And some of them have tried to get in touch with the mayor's assistant for appointments, and she does not return their calls.
No, I understand. And that's what I'm saying. Since I seem to have their attention now, I would just suggest if they want to send me their application, fill it out, print it off, scan it, send it to me, then I will take it to the mayor's office directly and see if we can get it done that way.
Okay, I would kind of like to work the list that I sent to the list that you and I had of people that had been mentioned. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Well, I thought I just looked at that earlier. Were those suggested names, or were those types of positions? I think it was.
Well, there were two things. We do
Okay.
have types of positions, kinds of expertise that we thought would be good, and that was shared with everybody. But
Right.
When we first started this process, I canvassed the different commissioners and got names of several people that different people thought would be good to add. And we have contacted most of those people, but they may not have done applications because the application thing just wasn't working.
Right.
So maybe, and I did not share that list with everybody because I thought since those folks hadn't officially expressed their interest, we shouldn't be discussing their names at a public meeting. But I do feel like maybe we'll take that list that was made up of the people that all of you suggested to me, and just see if we can contact them.
Okay. Yeah. I
And
mean, if we can get them to fill out an application, like I said, I'll take it directly, and we'll see if we can do it that way.
yeah, get around the process a little
Yeah.
bit, because that's
Yeah.
just wasn't working. Okay, thank you so much. Go ahead.
Okay. So yeah, we'll work on that. The next thing I would just solarize Kansas City, just to kind of give you an update on that. We've ended the enrollment period for the community on that. So we wrapped up at the end of October with 657 enrollments for their free cost estimates. So that's a good number. We were shooting for 700, so we fell a little short of that, but still pretty happy with the campaign overall in that regard. Now the focus now shifts to contracting. So we've got about 573 kilowatts of solar contracted with residential customers. So we have until the end of December for those folks that have received their cost estimates to actually sign contracts. So residential, the contracting period ends end of December, and then if you're a commercial or nonprofit, that ends at the end of March. And also is our low income component with that. I know Billy's been working on that low income component with the Sierra Club, so thank you, Billy, for that. I think they're getting into a position where they can make some recommendations on families that we can do some systems for. The dollars look like we've finally figured out a strategy on how to get the dollars into the hands of our contractors so that they can do the low income families that apply to our program. So yeah, things seem like they're moving along, and we'll kind of give you at the end of December, we'll probably get a report between our consultant and Rocky Mountain Institute that will do a complete overview of the entire campaign. We'll be able to see the map of where did all the enrollments come from, where did the contracts go into place, so we can see the distribution throughout the metropolitan area. So we'll get a lot more data and statistics we can share probably sometime in January, February of next year. But anyhow, focus now is all about just helping people figure out their estimates and see if they're in a position to contract. So let's see what else. I think the only thing I was just going to mention, and Laura already talked about this a little bit, is that there's a lot of conversations going on in the city. Laura's been very much involved with that, along with our mayors, one person in the mayor's office, in trying to take advantage of the grant opportunities. So we know there's a lot of dollars out there that'll be coming down from the IRA or infrastructure bill. So it's just a matter of being in a position to capture that stuff. So when we talked about it in-house and we were kind of taking a tally of all these types of opportunities, I think I was up to 12 or 13 different grant opportunities that we've already been in conversations about. Lots of good things going on to anticipate there. Just want to make sure we're in a position to be able to apply for those funds and support and or lead on those opportunities. So that's a lot of work behind the scenes on that, as well as other actions in terms of building relationships and talking with folks on the various strategies of the plan. We'll be spending some time next week promoting the plan. So we've been starting to get requests from the community on presentations related to the Climate Protection Resilience Plan. So I'll be meeting with the Kansas City Industrial Council next week, and there's another organization, the Heartland Renewable Energy Society. So if there are other folks out there, let us know. Kelly, of course, will be taking on some of that in the future, particularly as it aligns with the community specifically. Right now, I'm kind of covering that in terms of more with the chamber folks and other stakeholders. So I don't know. I'll field some questions. I didn't have, like I said, a long laundry list of specific projects. It's just we have a lot of things in the fire and not quite ready for public consumption necessarily. So go ahead, Carol.
Okay. Are there any liaison reports? Molly, turn on your mic.
I think she's saying she can't.
That happened to me. You might have to go out and come back in.
I got it
Yep.
now. I got it now. I'm so sorry. This is like the tech day from hell. And I actually do have, I think, a report on the Planning and Development Committee. I don't know if this is entirely relevant here, but there is a sale of a property that belonged to the diocese over on Troost, 52nd 20 Troost. And so it was from the church. And they are requesting to have a change in zoning without a plan, from residential to possibly commercial. And it came up before the planning committee on August 8th or so. And it's been going back and forth because the residents of Rock Hill and Crestwood are objecting to this. I don't know if you've come across this, Marty, but I've sort of been following it. What the residents are concerned about is that they feel that what the developer has planned is to put in a high-end residential addiction facility. And so they're just asking that the planning committee request a plan. That why change the zoning without a plan? So that's sort of what, it's kind of environmental. It also speaks to sort of health needs and justice and things. So I don't know if it's entirely relevant to what we're doing here, but that's what has come up in front of the planning committee recently. Oh, Marty, you're muted.
Is it that big vacant area along Troost on the west side of the street? Just
It's a building. It used to, I think UMKC rented it for a dorm for a while. It's right next to the St. Francis Xavier Church, the little,
it's the school then.
yeah.
Oh,
And someone has paid for and installed a brand new commercial kitchen. And I think the thought was that the diocese had made some promises that it would be available to the community. I don't know the full extent of the backstory of who said what, but the objection is that it's going before planning for a request of zoning without a plan. So they're not coming forth with what it is they're going to do with it.
Well, the interesting point about that is once they have the zoning, they can do anything that's allowed in that zoning.
Right.
So I can see why the community would like to see
Right.
a little more information.
I think that's a reasonable, and it cuts both ways, because if they're planning to have a residential facility for addiction, that could potentially be a good thing. And this is not in my backyard, but it's not, it's a for-profit place. And apparently the developer owns several of these. So they're concerned about the end use as well.
So what should we do about this?
I don't know. I don't know that it squarely falls in our environmental purview. But it is a building, and it's already been sold.
And it's currently zoned as what? Religious? Or you said it was currently zoned as housing?
I think so, because I think UMKC may have rented it and had it as sort of a dorm for a while.
I think you can have worship places and religious facilities in any zoning district. So it could be an underlying residential zoning district and still have a church property on it, so historically.
And I have the paperwork from the planning and committee with the number on it, and it is currently zoned as residential. But the request before planning is to rezone it to business without a plan, which just in general sounds like bad news.
So I'm really ignorant of city processes and stuff, but it would seem like that would almost be a requirement to either have a plan or have some city official waive the plan, because they kind of know what the plan is or something like that. I wouldn't really know if that's the way it is, but that would seem to make sense.
And especially if there's organized neighborhood objection. But so that's what's come before the development committee. And they've been rescheduling, so it's been bumped from multiple meetings. So that hasn't been ruled on.
So Molly, just a heads up, if you're monitoring that committee, I think I've heard suggestion that the city's tree preservation ordinance may go in front of that committee first before it goes to the city council.
Oh, okay. I'll keep an eye out for it.
Okay, are there any other liaison reports? I went to part of the Air Quality Forum meeting, and Andy, I had to leave about 10:45. Did you hear the end of the ozone report?
I did. Yeah. Do you want me to give you I got the highlights of the ozone report.
Yes.
So I thought it was kind of interesting. It was for the ozone season, the 2022 ozone season summary. There were 6 exceedances, and we had 5 in July, and then there was 1 in August. There were 57 yellow ozone days. What I thought was interesting, based on their statistics, this was the 7th warmest ozone season since 1995 and the 9th driest ozone season. And September actually was the driest month on record. So just a couple of highlights from that overview.
Those 5 in July, were they all clustered in, short time period?
Oh, you would ask me that. I didn't jot that one down.
Sorry, Andy.
No, and they did good. Yeah, go ahead.
If you all are interested in it, we can get a copy of the whole report and send it to you. It had a lot of excellent detail about our summer weather from the perspective of temperature and precipitation. So, Andy, I can ask Karen, or you can ask Karen to send us a copy of it, and we can share it with the commissioners.
Sure. And I think they get so excited there, whether or not, it wouldn't surprise me if the commission were interested to hear a brief presentation. I'm sure they would entertain that too. So
yeah, they do. They love to talk about the weather. I think
they're very excited about it.
Oh yeah, they really are. But it is interesting because they do provide insight into what causes problems with the ozone, which is not necessarily intuitive.
And that dry summer heat is going to impact our soils.
A lot.
So for perspective, Andy, how does that compare to previous years then?
So it was a little higher on the exceedances. I mean, we've had a few years now where we didn't really have that many exceedances, which was, we've had pretty good years, but this one's a bump up for sure. But still not as high as some past years. We've had us going back, I don't know, Carol, you probably remember better than I do, but I think we had a year had 22 exceedances and somewhere in that ballpark, maybe 10 years ago or so.
Yeah, it is really amazing how much the weather affects whether or not we have these ozone exceedances. The emissions that were generated regionally have an impact. The emissions that come from areas, particularly to our southwest, has a considerable impact. And then how long they sit over Kansas City and whether the wind blows or there's a little rain is a huge deal. So it's really, it's a real combination. The weather's super significant. But it might be fun to have them. Then you'd see what we talk about in the Air Quality Forum. Maybe it would be interesting to the commission. Would you like to see? We could ask them.
Sure.
Yeah, it'd be great to have the report.
Yeah. Well, I'll ask Karen and see what she says. What do you think, Andy?
No, absolutely. I think that's probably a good idea. It is a very interesting, report, especially if you haven't seen it before. I think I've seen it every year now for several years, and sometimes the play-by-play for every exceedance.
Well, we could ask him to shorten that a little bit because it is yeah, they explain near misses and all kinds of stuff. But we could ask him to just do a quick summary.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Having the report would also be useful if we end up writing for one of these grants on climate.
Well, it would give you some good information about the weather and about what they're doing. And it might give you some ideas of what we would like to know about the weather relative to food security and heat island and other things too. Maybe there are things that we haven't been looking for in the weather that we ought to be monitoring more closely. We can find that out. Is there any old business to come before the commission?
Carol, just Jensen put in the chat that he said he'd comment on the Solid Waste Management District meeting.
Oh, please.
Yeah, and before I do, I'll say I can't locate it offhand, but I'll find and circulate to everyone that a major study of wildfires in California came out recently. They went back, I believe, a couple of years and have noted that the emissions from the fires are more than, I don't know that offsetting is the right word in this case, but erasing maybe is the better term. They're more than erasing what California is attempting to achieve by 2030 as annual greenhouse gas emission reductions, if that makes sense. So the wildfires are basically eliminating all the effort in the state of California to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, if you take it as one group compared with their, the various code. And it was a kind of an upsetting study, but the Solid Waste Management District met the end of last month, and it was the first meeting they had since in person since COVID. But they were trying to prepare for what is another one of these grant opportunities that they had just learned about at the recent recycling conference, which they think will be available on America Recycles Day, which is November the 15th. It would be great, Laura or Andy, if you want to reach out to Lisa or Nadja. They're trying to. So the Solid Waste Management District is not the Mid-America Regional Council. It's an office that works in the support of Mark, but since they're not, the Council of Governments designation that Mark has is not as easily available to them. So there is some of the funding that they won't be eligible for, and they were trying to get clarification, or so it may be something where the city could take the lead instead. But they also they just did a little facilitation, and they collected a bunch of different ideas that some of the attendees there brought. I'll say the library, one of the projects that I'm trying to figure out how to integrate, the library, you guys may have seen, is a partner with the local film commission on the Peacock. This last year there's been taping for a show that's going to air it's going to stream on Peacock from Amy Poehler of Parks and Rec, but about the book, The Art of Swedish Death Cleaning, which you can check out from any of the branches at the library. We gave away, in partnership with the film commission, we gave away, I don't know, a pallet of this book earlier in the year. And one of the things that we've been discussing at the library is how challenging it is to declutter if you want to do it with with some intentionality around your environmental footprint. So we're probably going to pay attention to the episodes and try to have some programming or materials that are associated, and that was one of the kind of upcoming hot ideas that we said ought to, might galvanize interest. But that was the sum total of the meeting, a facilitation to generate ideas in anticipation of, I think it's going to be an EPA-led grant funding, probably announced around November 15th, America Recycles Day.
And I'm sorry, Jensen, you mentioned that you wanted Andy and I to look out for something, and I only caught the very end of it.
I would just say you might check in with Lisa and Nadja at Mark because some of it's going to be formula funding, and it may be that the city should take the lead on an application instead of, because the solid waste management district it won't be eligible for
Right.
some of the funding.
Okay. Got it.
Well, it sounds like there's room for lots of irons to be thrown in the fire. Do we have any remarks from, any new business before I go to remarks from visitors? Sounds like
Yeah.
we have really lots of new business.
Well, I have something I wanted to say. I don't know.
Yes, please.
Okay. My neighborhood's called Rock Hill Ridge. That's the name of it, the one I live in. And Jerry Schechter also lives in this neighborhood. And so he and I and a board member of the Rock Hill Ridge neighborhood are working on a plan to collect leaves. We have from Antioch Urban Growers has a leaf sucker, and we're going to go around and select and suck up leaves that people who don't see the value of them, and then we're going to make Johnson Sues out of them. And we hope that we will build community at the same time, we hope that the community will be built around environmental ignition, let's say, Kelly's word there. So I don't know. It seems kind of hopeful right now. I've been kind of laid up with this COVID thing for 3 days this week. So.
Ooh, Marty.
So it sounds interesting. I mean, we'll be doing something that they like, and then maybe they'll enjoy learning about it. And I mean, it's just going to happen from one heart to another. But then, if we have a good model in the Rock Hill Ridge, that could be transferred to any neighborhood in the country, much in the city as well. So we're playing with it. We got a one sheet thing, and we're going to see what happens. And each of 6 board members decided that they would go each get 5 people to bring their leaves to the curb. Then we're going to come by and suck them up, and then I got to figure out what to do with the damn leaves. But
Marty, is that why, like, I'm on Gregory, but like there are a bunch of people that have their leaves piled like around their tree at the curb, and that's not normal. Is that because of you?
No.
Okay.
They're just hoping they'll go away magically.
Well,
No.
the city of Roland Park does that. They just have people rake their leaves out to the street, and they bring this giant vehicle by with a vacuum, and they vacuum them up, which I think sounds pretty wonderful.
Well, ours is not that sophisticated, but there's so many things. We're recommending that they leave their leaves on their ground rather than give them to us. But
Marty, do you have a date yet? Because I need to let students know ahead of time.
a date for what?
The great leaf sucking event.
Well, it's not going to be one event. It's going to be
Multiple.
They're going to try to have people do it 1 week on 1 block or 2 blocks or whatever, and we're playing it by ear. And then I'm going to run around like a chicken with his head cut off, sucking leaves.
If you want student help, you got to give them a heads up. They don't function that way.
I understand that. If I knew, I didn't know I was going to get COVID, so.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so many factors in life.
Well, there's space at the farm school because last year's Johnson Sues that we built have now completely compressed. We've sampled. We were sampling there this week, and they're ready to empty them and be ready for new leaves.
Did you do any analysis on them yet?
Yeah, we have sampled them and we have put them in for DNA analysis. It will take a while to get that stuff out.
Right. Do you have any more slots? because I have a couple of,
Possibly, yeah.
yeah, I would like to see what the ones I did, because I watched them more closely than maybe, I don't know. I have
Okay.
no idea.
Okay.
Yeah.
The one at your house?
Yeah, the one at my house and one at the garden.
Okay.
Wow, so Molly, when you get some data, can you share that with the group? That'd be really
Yeah.
neat
Yeah.
to see, and then maybe we can learn how we could get better at engaging other communities and supporting what Marty's trying
Well,
to do.
right now, it's not a cheap alternative. The DNA sequencing's really expensive. But if you're going to go with that biomicrometer or some of this doing it on a microscope, you might want to have that backed up with some hardcore sequencing data. So I don't know if in the future, you're going to be able to do DNA sequencing on, unless it gets a whole lot cheaper. But this is just a start, and we've got 5 different students looking at the diversity of the microbiome in a whole bunch of settings. Urban lots, the Johnson Sues, regular food waste, organic farm soil, and regular farm soil. We've got somebody doing forests. So we'll have a...
So, yeah. Oh, that's awesome. So can the, I'm ignorant about what you'd look for in the DNA analysis. Can it be linked to some more generic, simple analysis like total fungal count or something
Well,
that,
that's what they're doing PCR, and we can do that here in the lab. I've been recruiting for a long time over in our biology department. And then with the sequencing, we're hoping to get, some level of identification of fungal and bacterial. So we're definitely looking for fungal bacterial ratios, because that makes it comparable to what Johnson was doing with his stuff out at Chico State. We're just getting started. So as a matter of fact, we're putting in abstracts tonight. They're due tomorrow for the National Geography meetings, which are in the spring. So by spring, we will absolutely have to have some data, because they're going to a conference. So, and 2 of them have funding. So slowly, it's coming.
May seem slow, but really it is so exciting that you're doing that work.
Well, and we've tucked it into a number of these grants that have been happening too, tucking it in a little bit here and there. Because the focus of this, the research group, is urban soils regeneration. So all of these data will feed back into how can we help rebuild the urban soils. So the answer is yes, we'll absolutely share what we get.
Okay. Are there any remarks from visitors? We don't have a lot of visitors.
We have Billy.
I know.
Billy is the visitor, right?
Am I the only one here? Oh, geez. This is no pressure. I will try to keep it brief since I'm the one holding y'all up. But I think I missed the last couple of these. So I just wanted to speak. So hi, Madam Chair, members of the commission and staff, and new staff. Welcome, Ms. Herman. Billy Davies, he, him pronouns. I'm a resident of the 6th District in Kansas City, and I also serve on the staff of the Sierra Club, Missouri chapter based here in Kansas City, just kind of working around the metro area. And I just wanted to, like, I know we're already talking about the next steps in the implementation of this great work, this great climate plan that is continuing to develop as we're getting, talking about new funding from the federal government, how to get that implemented, how we're going to get other departments on board, and all the possibilities kind of unleashed by the historic adoption of the climate plan back in August. And just wanted to, as a resident and someone who has lamented and stressed for himself and his family and loved ones over the potential impacts of inaction, that some of which have been discussed today, I just want to thank the commission, as I firmly believe that all of this talk about what is possible, what is next, and the opportunities before the city, some of which are already happening, from engaging in utility commission discussions, we're talking about closing a coal plant in Kansas City now, calling out greenwashing, and also just getting much needed investment in our city operations. I think that a lot of that has to do with the work of this team, this commission, even the development of other commissions and committees like the steering committee. I think a lot of that can be traced back to some incredible work, advocate letters, advice and just all the efforts of this commission and city staff. So I thank you for that, and look forward to continuing to help my friends and neighbors, encourage you to keep it up, and just sending you the energy to continue doing this great work. So anyway, with that, happy holidays and happy new year. I don't know if I'll be on the next call, so wanted to just share that.
Billy, do you have any events coming up?
Oh, actually, Professor Davies, we're kind of an activist social. It's going to be at Charlie Hooper's in Brookside on 63rd Street in Brookside. It's actually going to be tomorrow at 6 to 8 p.m. Just kind of a general, that's just like a general hangout meeting. But as far as events, a lot of them are still just kind of, more inside, but following up with a lot of excited Kansas Cityans one-on-one who took action, some for the first time in civic participation during the climate plan proceedings. So a lot of that going on. But yeah, if anybody's around and wants to, hoping that we can schedule some celebrations citywide. I know other folks are as well. But for now, yeah, just a regular old activist hangout going on tomorrow.
Is that Resilient Activist? Is it that group?
Nope, Activist Social. It's hosted by the Sierra Club Missouri chapter, local group. So
because there's an event on Saturday, the virtual redesigning our communities, life after fossil fuels.
But you're in, Billy, right? Aren't you speaking in that event?
I believe I am. I got the invitation. I didn't know I sent in some information, but I didn't know if I was confirmed. So maybe you should
attend, because I think your picture is up there.
Okay, well, I'm looking forward to being. I didn't know. I have to check to see if I have a confirmation email in my spam. I have it saved, but I wasn't sure.
I can forward you the invite, Billy, if you want.
I appreciate it.
Wait, so I didn't know if other people were aware of this. Here, I'll put it in the chat. So that's on Saturday from 1 to 5 with a whole bunch of different organizations, My Region Wins and Resilient Activist, and a whole bunch of I see Richard Mabian in there. Lots of different folks.
Well, thank you so much.
And I actually have one as well. If anybody's interested in making this a long night, there is a Blue River Greenway community workshop. For those that might be interested, it's focusing on water equity, access to nature, and exploration of potential greenway projects along the Blue River. And that starts actually at 5:30. So put the link in there if anyone's interested. I'm going from meeting to meeting to meeting today.
Oh my goodness.
But seems like a good place to get your voice heard about the future of the Blue River. If you are a Blue River lover like I am.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, are we coming to an end?
Actually, Billy, what time did you say that meeting was tomorrow?
6 to 8, kind of come as you are, and it's just a happy hour. But yeah, 6 to 8 at Charlie Hooper's. If anybody wants to just come hang out, give you a button and a sticker, buy a beer. Well, Sierra Club won't, but I can't.
That's tomorrow, you say?
Yeah, tomorrow, Thursday, Charlie Hooper, 6 to 8.
Okay.
That's within stumbling distance.
Yes, it
Sounds-
is.
Okay, well, and I will go ahead and see, I'll work with Andy and see if we can get whether or not to come talk to us in December. And maybe by then, you all will have a little more information about some of the things in the works and a new staff member to introduce. Or will the new staff member even be on that early in the month?
They will be, yes.
Oh, okay, good. Okay, well, that sounds great. Unless there's objection, I think we should adjourn. Is there any objection? Anybody got one more thing to say? Okay, everybody, have a happy holiday over Thanksgiving, and
Yeah. Marty, feel better.
yeah,
Okay.
we'll reconvene in
Thank you.
December. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Nice to meet you. Thank you.